Hello everyone, this is Rajesh Chatterjee and welcome back again. So in the last video, what we discussed is what is test class and what do you mean by test coverage, what is overall test coverage, what is individual test coverage. The theoretical part of test class is what we discussed. This video will talk about how you as a developer will be able to write test class to give the test coverage of your Apex class. Alright, so let's get back to my screen. If you see my screen, I actually have taken one class name is explain test class, and it's a small very basic method. Method is public static. I'm assuming that you have already seen that public static video explanations, and I have already explained each and every word of this particular Apex class in separate videos, like what is list and all these things, right? Hope you know about it. And now I'm going to explain like the code inside it, and I'm going to write few lines of code. This is basically your Apex class. After we write this Apex class, I'll write another test class and show you how you can cover this particular Apex class and how you can make this Apex class ready to move to your production environment. All right. So if you see the first line is I'm just trying to fetch few account data. Okay. So simple class, I will try to fetch few account data from account object. And we'll try to do some manipulation with the data that I'm trying to fetch through this SQL query. So line number 5, you see, I've taken an account list and I'm trying to fetch few data from the account object. So my query is very simple: ID, name, phone, account number from account. Okay, no where clause, no limit, nothing. And then I'm just returning this. So this method is actually returning the list of account that you are fetching from the account object. All right. Now in the same class, I'm going to write one more method. Okay, I'll quickly write the method, and every word I write, I'll just explain after I write this. Okay, so let's take a method. I'll quickly copy the same method name here, paste it, bracket ends, and this time my method will return nothing. So this will be like void, and I'll write like process account. This is my method name. Okay, so the reason I'm writing two different methods, I'll tell you why. Okay, once we write the Apex test class, I'll show you why exactly I'm writing two different methods. I could have write the same logic inside the same method, but there's a reason I'm taking two different methods. Okay, so in my second method, what I'll do is I'll take a same list type of account. Okay, so let me take this accounts here is equals to, I will call this method. Hope you're understanding what I'm writing. Basically, from within the same Apex class, I can call this particular method from this method by just the name of the method, correct? So which I have done, and this method is doing what? This method is returning all the account that I'm fetching from the account object. Okay, let me quickly write the other lines of code and then explain you. Alright, so I have written my second method. My second method is process account. See what I'm doing here. I just have taken two different list of account. Okay, and sorry, this name should be like this. Control C, Control V here, and new. So I have taken one list, a list of account which is loading. I mean, this particular list is getting loaded with this particular SQL query return data, and I have taken another list of account which will be helping me to update the accounts. Okay, and then this is normal for loop. I'm checking if there is an account where the name is Rajesh, and if the phone number is blank, I mean null, then the phone number will be updated with this, and then the account will be updated. Okay, this is my simple Apex class that I have written. Okay, let me quickly create a new account. I'll save this code. I will create a new account named Rajesh, and phone number is blank. All right, save this. All right, now this particular Apex class that I've written, currently the test coverage for this class is none. Do you see here something called code coverage? So code coverage for this class is none because there is no test class has been written and executed for this. All right. Now this Apex class is doing what? It is actually fetching all the accounts and it's actually processing the accounts. I mean, it's updating the phone number, right? Now, what happened in the test class, right? Let me just quickly write a test class and just explain the test class format. Okay, there's a format that you have to follow here. Let me give the name as test underscore explain. See, normally the name of the test class should be test underscore the class name. Okay, so here my class name is, I think, explain underscore test class. So my test class name is test underscore explain underscore test class. Getting me right? This is my Apex class name, right? So it's easily understandable, right? Okay, this is the test class for this particular class. Or else, you have to struggle to find what is the test class name for this particular class. That's I did struggle a lot because the name of the class and the test class name was different, and it was very struggleful to find the test class from this org, right? So always try to give this kind of a name. Now, when you write a test class, see the difference between Apex class and test class, how system will get to know that this is not a normal Apex class. This Apex class you are writing is to give the test coverage. How system will get to know? System will get to know with this annotation called isTest. Whenever you write @isTest, I mean, that's the annotation, right? Salesforce understand this is not a normal class. This is a test class. All right. Now I'll quickly write the test class method and then I'll explain you line by line what is this test class is doing. Okay. Let me quickly write it up. Alright, so I have written the test classes. Now let me explain what I have written. See, a couple of things that you have to know. Okay, test class cannot read your actual data, right? So it can neither read your data or nor it can perform any real operation. It means, let's say my Apex class, what it is doing basically, it is fetching few accounts. It is checking if the account name is Rajesh. Yes, then it is. And it is also checking if the phone number of Rajesh is null, then it is updating the phone number, correct? So now, this Apex class can read whether the account is there with name Rajesh or not, because this SQL query can actually fetch the data. So your test class, the intention of your test class is write some code which will make this Apex class like line by line executes, right? I mean, this test class, right? What I'm doing here is from this test class, I'm just calling this method. So if you call this particular process account method, what this process account method is doing, the process account method is actually calling this method get accounts, and then it is doing some operations. So if I call this method, then automatically this method also gets invoked, because line number 11, if you see, the same thing it's doing, right? So in my test class, what I'm doing, I'm just calling the method here. It's not that, in your test class, you will just call the method and your job is done. As I said, test class is blind, right? It cannot read your real data. So test class do not know whether if there is really an account available where the name is Rajesh and the phone number is null. So in this case, you have to create a dummy or fake data. When I say fake data, what does it mean? Whenever you're writing a test class, and if test class is trying to fetch the data, or is test class is trying to do some updation, right? Which I'm doing here. Test class do not have access to the database. So you first have to create the dummy data, which will satisfy this if clause and everything. Are you getting me? Test class cannot read your database, right? Neither it can do some operation in your database. So you first have to create some dummy fake data in your test class, and then you have to run the test class. So if you see here, line number 7, 8, 9, what I'm doing, I'm just creating a fake account. By the way, this account will not be created actually, right? This account is just a dummy account. It is just satisfying this test classes data. That's it. Now, after creating this data name Rajesh, phone number I have not given, so hopefully phone number will be null, right? Phone number will be null here, right? Because I have not given here. I'm just giving only the name here. So I'm first creating the account. Why I'm creating this account? I think this is clear. Again, I'm repeating. I'm creating this account because test class cannot read your data. And this particular query in Apex class is actually trying to read your account data, which test class cannot do. And if the test class cannot do, then these lines will not be executed, right? If this query is not returning some value, how come this line will be executed then? The for loop will not run because this will be blank then, right? This query is returning nothing. That's why in the test class, I first have created a dummy account. Now this query will fetch the data, the dummy data basically, right? And then what I'm doing, I'm just calling this test class. I'm the method from the test class, right? Now how to execute the test class? So very simple, okay? If you go here you have a button called test, right? Debug, next to the debug, you have a test button, right? Click on this new run. From test, click on new run, search that name. Okay, my test class name is test_explain_test class. So I'm just clicking on this. I might have multiple methods, right? Under this test class, I have only one method, by the way. So I'm just clicking on this and run. See the magic now. After you run this, right, what will happen is this Apex class will be executed. Now, see, right now the code coverage is none. Because after I run the test class, I have not checked the code coverage. Now, if you see here, there's a drop down. The drop down is saying that all test 100%. Now, if you click on this, here this debug developer console is very much helpful here to identify you as a developer, which line has been covered by the test class, which line has not been covered. So if there is any line which is coming with red color, that line has not been covered, that means. And if there is a line coming with this blue color, that means all this line has been covered. So I have total 23 lines of code. Out of this few brackets are there. So let's say I have how many 16-17 lines of code, and every single lines of code has been tested by your test class, and that's why I'm getting 100% coverage, and all the lines are covered with blue color. So the intention of your test class is, you as a developer, it's not end of your job after writing the Apex class. You have to write another test class, and test class is very simple. You are just making sure from test class that your Apex class code that you have written is actually useful, and every single line has to be reachable by your test class. So it's very simple. You have to call this method from your test class, but it's when you call the method, right, maybe your real Apex class is trying to fetch the data like what I'm doing here. In this case, your test class will fail. I'm showing you one thing, okay? Let me just quickly comment this code. I have commented line number 7, 8 and 9, and then if I run this test class, it will fail again. See what happened. See, I'm not creating any dummy account from my test class. Now if I run this test class, how? Go to test, new run, select the class, select the methods, run. See what happened now. Because test class is blind, it cannot read the real data. What happened if I go to my Apex class and try to fetch here? It's only 66%. Why? See the red color lines. These lines are not covered. Why? Because this SOQL query is not at all fetching any data. Test class cannot read it. That's why if you see here, check out my code, okay, what I'm doing here. I'm just trying to fetch the data from account object, and in the for loop, what I'm doing, I'm just checking if the name of the account that is being fetched from this SQL query is Rajesh, and if the phone number is null. But unfortunately, this query is returning nothing, it's null, right? So that's why inside the for loop, this is not coming, the code coverage is not coming. Understood, right? So if you have any situation where your Apex class is dealing with some real data from the database, you have to make sure that you create the dummy data first in your test class like this, and then you just call your methods, right? So when you call your method after creating this dummy data, your test class will immediately call this method, and line by line it will execute everything. Okay. Once you're done with this, another best practice I have to let you know about assert equals. Let me first write this line and then explain you, okay? One of the best practice that you have to maintain in your test class is there's something called assert equals, okay? Assert equals is a method from system class. It's a static method. If you go to Google and try to search this system class, there will be a method called assert equals. You know what it does? Basically, see, test class, you're trying to enter some dummy data. You're trying to, create a dummy data. Here in this case, I have created a dummy account, right? So the dummy account that you have created, whether the account has actually created or not, right? Just to make sure the account has the dummy account has already created. I mean, it's not getting created, but in a runtime, it's getting created, right? So to check that, I have to use this assert equals. So what I'm doing here is line number 12. I'm trying to fetch the data. So this class explain.test class get account. What it is doing? This class is doing what? This method is doing what? This method is actually fetching all the data from account, right? And I'm trying to do the same thing here and holding the fetched account inside this variable. Now with the help of assert equals, I'm checking whether this account has only one data, because I have created only one record now. So ideally this variable will have only one record, right? So I'm checking here, this assert equals has two parameters. One, the one that you want to check in the left side, and the second parameter is what you want to compare to. Correct? So I'm checking if this particular list has only one, size of the list is only one or not. So I have given one in the left hand side. I'm checking yes. It should be true, correct? Because I have created only one record so far. So this method will fetch only one record. Next line number 16, I'm checking whether the ID, ACC ID and the accounts that you have received here, this ID is same or not. It should be same again, because I'm inserting this account, right? And I'm checking the name of the account, like ACC name, which is Rajesh, is equals to same as whatever you have fetched here from this method or not, which should be again same. So assert equals is something that we have to use, right after your test class execution. Whether the test class has executed properly or not, you have to check with this assert equals. So you are checking left hand side, you are checking whatever you want to test it, right? You are testing something with your test class. So whatever you want to test, you have to put it in the left hand side, and whatever you want to compare to, you have to put it in the right side. Like that, assert equals will help you to check the outcome of the Apex class. Okay. Second best practice is, next video I'll be talking about something called governor limit. Okay, in the governor limit, I'm not going into detail of this in this video. So basically, what happened, right? We have a lot of limits when you write an Apex class, right? For an example, let's say SQL query cannot be more than 150 in one transactions, and suppose there is a chance where your SQL query would be 160, 200 whenever you call this method. What I mean is this, right? Suppose this particular method process account has 200 SQL query, which should not be there, by the way. That's not a best practice. Suppose it is there. So in this case, it might hit the limit, because the limit is what? In one transaction, it cannot go more than 150. So if you find that there could be a scenario where it might hit any of your governor limit, then what you have to do is you have to write this test class under something called start test and stop test. Let me write it down and explain this to you. So you have to use test.start test and test.stop test whenever you find that the class method that you're calling, I mean this particular process account method, if you find that this could hit one of your governor limit, then just to set your limit right from 0, you have to use the start test and stop test. So what does it mean, right? It means that whatever you write inside this, your limit, it may I mean, let's say you have another method, right? If you have another method that you have to call, but that other method has, suppose in this method you have 140 SQL query, and in the other method you have another 60 query, right? So total 200 SQL queries you are writing, you're executing in one transaction. When you call this test class, it's one transaction, and in two different method, one method is calling 140, and another method is calling suppose 20. So 160 SQL query you are trying to call from the same transaction, which will lead to a governor exception. I mean, it will hit the exception, right? To set the governor limit, to set the limit right from 0, once your first method has been executed, you have to write the method inside this start test and stop test. So this will help you to set your limit right from 0 again. So now in the next method, if you have again another 140 SQL query to be executed, that won't be any problem, because before it reaches to the next method, actually the start and stop test has made that limit into 0. Okay, I'm going to give some supporting documents for the start test and stop test. You have to go through that document to get some more idea about it. But overall, I think you got the concept of what is test class, how to get the coverage, how to write the test class, what is assert equals, how to use start test and stop test, right? And that's pretty much good enough to write normal Apex test classes. There is one more thing that I have to explain. Probably I'll create one more video once we learn the integration, right? We have a big chapter called integration, Salesforce integration. Once we learn that, the way we write Apex test class for the integration class now is little different. Okay, so if possible, I'll try to create a separate video. After we learn integrations, I'll show you how you have to write test class for the integration classes. All right, so that's it for this video. Next video, we'll talk about something called batch class, batch Apex. Okay, see you in the next video. Thank you.